everyone, I am Havva. Today I will be presenting the paper titled Risk-Averse Control of the Undiscounted Transient Markov Models, written by Mrs. Özlem and Mr. Andrzej. As industrial engineering operation research students, we are very familiar with the optimizing cost and profits. But today I want to take you into a domain where the cost isn't money. It's human life. The topic we will explore focuses on integrating risk measures into the medical decision making. Specifically, we will look at how we can mathematically model the difficult choices doctors face, such as in organ transportation, where the stakes are incredibly high and uncertain. So, let's start with the why. Why do we need new model? In traditional operation research, we use Markov decision processes that are risk neutral. They focus on maximizing the expected total reward, minimizing the expected cost. In factory, maximizing the average production is fine. But in the healthcare, the average is dangerous. Imagine a treatment with a 50% chance of an instant cure and a 50% chance of immediate death. Mathematically, the average outcome might look like 50% improvement in health, but for a patient and a doctor, a 50% risk, that is unacceptable. This slide highlights the dilemma. Traditional expected value model is ignore the variability and the catastrophic tail risk. Our objective here is to replace that expectations operator with the risk measure. We want to shift from being risk neutral to being risk averse. So here, now let's look at the technical backbone, Transient Markov Decision Process. Unlike the infinite horizon model, we often study this system is transient. This means it doesn't run in the infinite loop. It eventually terminates by a reaching in absorbing state. Think of a patient journey in a hospital. The state space like S, these are the health conditions like stable, critical, or post-op. An absorbing state, the process must end. In our context, the absorbing states are either full recovery or death. Once you reach this, the decision process stops. And the action space like A, at every step we have choices, transplant, wait, or medicate. Transition probability P, this is the probability of moving from health state to state given a specific medical action. Our goal is to optimize the path through this state before the clock runs out. So here. There is where the paper makes its most significant theoretical contribution. Standard Bellman equations are linear because they use the expectation operator. This paper replies that with dynamic risk measure denoted by RHO. This transforms the problem from linear to nonlinear. Why is it important? Because we are using the nested risk measures instead of just looking at the risk of the immediate next step. We are evaluating the risk of the next step plus the risk of the step after that and so on. As you can see in the recursive formula on the slide, the ensure time consistency, it means our fear of the risk today is consistent with our fear of the risk tomorrow. We are optimizing for the worst case scenario across the entire timeline, not just the average case. Because we introduced risk measures, we broke the linearity of the standard Bellman equations. We can no longer use simple linear programming or standard value iteration to solve this easily. To solve this complex nonlinear equation, the authors developed specialized Newton-type iteration method. Here is how it works. The linearization at each step, it approximates the nonlinear risk curve with linear tangent. And policy evaluation, it calculates the risk value of the current medical policy. And the policy improvement, it finds any policy that strictly reduces that risk. The key takeaway here is the convergence result. The paper mathematically proves that this algorithm will converge an optimal deterministic policy in an infinite number of steps. This is crucial for the doctor. They need a clear deterministic rule, like if X happens, do Y, not a randomized suggestion. So here, let's apply this theory to real-world cases, living donor liver transplantation. Here is the scenario. We have a patient with end-stage liver disease. We have a living donor available, usually relative, and the decision dilemma is action wait. Do we wait for the cadaveric organ from the decided donor? This carries the stochastic risk that the patient might die while waiting list. And action transplant, do we perform the surgery now with the living donor? This eliminates the wait but carries immediate surgical risk for the both with the patient and the donor. The stage space includes the patient MELD score, a metric for liver disease severity. The objective is not just to maximize life expectancy average, but to minimize the risk of the early mortality. Using the risk-averse model, we can determine the exact MELD score threshold where the risk of waiting becomes higher than the risk of surgery. And here, the numerical results of the study are striking. When we run the model with risk neutral, the model behaves like a standard medical protocol focusing on the average survival years. However, as we increase the risk aversion parameter, the policy shifts. The model starts recommending transplantation early for the patient with the moderate severity. And why? Because the model is now afraid of the small probability that the patient might die suddenly while waiting. It prefers the sure bet of the surgery over the uncertainty of the waiting list. This proves that in computing risk parameters fundamentally change the optimal medical strategy. In conclusion, this work is more than just a theoretical mathematical exercise. Methodologically, it successfully extends Markov decision process to handle risk aversion in transit model. And algorithmically, it provides a robust Newton-type method to solve nonlinear equation. And practically, it offers a decision support mechanism for critical life and death situations like organ transplants. Markov chains and dynamic programming here transcend mere academic subjects to become vital tools that can save lives. Thank you for listening.